This is Craig Locicero from Forbidden, and you're listening to the Nothing's Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on X at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Craig Locicero from Forbidden.
And the Boneless Ones.
Yeah.
Forbidden is reunited in 2023.
We're working on some new material.
Yep, and they're going to be playing some live shows in 2024. Hopefully getting a new album out maybe in 2025.
Yeah, lots to look forward to in the future for Forbidden.
Great interview. Let's get to it.
All right, good night.
Good night.
As 2023 is coming to a close, we've had a fantastic year here on the Nothing Shocking podcast. Hope you've enjoyed the variety of episodes we've shared with you. Wishing everyone a happy holidays and blessings in the new year.
Craig, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Craig, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, guys, what's happening?
So super excited to have you on. We had Chris Contos on last year. He highly recommended you. Had Orion Salazar on multiple times, and he highly recommended you, so we finally got you on.
Orion, that's great, man.
He's great.
Yeah, he's such a great guy and bass player, just ridiculously good.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, hey, Forbidden reunited this past 2023. The band had been on hiatus since 2012. Can you give our listeners an insight to the band getting back together after 9 years?
Well, I mean, this is it's funny because it had to be my call, but I was like the last one on board, and a lot of people know this story by now, but for those who don't, I never saw Forbidden happening without Russ Anderson. He was like a few years older than me when I was 15 when we started.
Yeah.
He was like, I think he was 22, and that seemed like so old, and I was like a little kid, like, oh my God, he's 22, he could buy beer. But Russ was someone I really looked up to, and I just never saw myself doing Forbidden without him. Mm-hmm. But he had a severe bout with alcoholism that kind of led him to, leaving the band in 2012. And I figured, well, if he's leaving, unless he comes back, this is not really going to happen again. So I had resigned myself to that reality, and I was okay with it. But Russ, a few years ago, came and sincere reach out for help, texted me and said he wasn't doing so well, and I went and visited him the next day, and he wasn't. He was really close to being in the last stages of alcohol, death. So that's how I kind of figured it was still going to be over. But somewhere along the line, different circumstances bring us to this guy Norman Skinner singing a little bit, sitting in for this thing, Bay Area International, that I had off, and we needed somebody to come in and sing these songs for us that wasn't going to be there in Europe when we were going to. We had to play at a festival called the Dynamo Festival. All the other singers were either on tour or didn't live around here. So Chris suggested Norman, who I knew was a great singer. And I just was like, yeah, that's cool. We'll have Norman do these songs. I mean, I didn't think of anything about Forbidden, but one of the prerequisites of this whole thing actually is that nobody in a thrash band can play their own song. Everybody has to play the other guy's song, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no one in Forbidden could play a Forbidden song. But he was there at one rehearsal, and I was like, well, somebody flakes out when we're in Europe, and one of us is stuck playing this song. It was Off the Edge. Why don't we just run through it? And I didn't put too much thought into it, but as I looked around the room before we started, before the vocals came in, I realized it was all four guys that played on Omega Wave, which was our last album.
Right.
Yeah.
It's Mark Hernandez, Matt, Steve Smythe, and myself. And then Norman starts singing, and my eyes just went, oh, okay. And then the door opens up, and I see Chris behind Norman with his eyes wide open, because Chris was not in the band. There was no band. And he just gave me this crazy look like, what the fuck? So anyway, what the fuck? And then he slowly closed the door with his eyes wide open. And, I just said out loud, it's not lost on me that was incredible, because Norman he wasn't trying to sing like Russ. He was singing like himself and sounding awfully convincing. And that kind of made me go, okay, well, sure, that could be done, but I'm not going to do it anyway. So it was a series of events. Went to Europe, came back, got ready for the shows for Europe, picked another song, Chalice of Blood, to have the guys in Warbringer play, and then have Norman sing that. And at the rehearsal, when they showed up from L.A., they came up here, and they just plugged in and went into Chalice of Blood with Norman singing, and the whole room just turned around and looked at me like, are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Like, I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it, but I still kind of resisted it. Then we did the show the next night, and it was completely obvious that it could be done. And I just, and just out of respect for Russ, I was like, nah. But Russ has already told us. He said, hey, I'm not ever going to do this again. If you guys want to redo it, you could do it without me. I'm cool with it. Because in his words, he felt like he let us down, and he didn't want to hold us back. And I just said no. But so come into 2023, we start getting, first an offer from Death Angel came in to play their Christmas shows, and I was like, I don't think that's going to happen. And then another offer came in from the Alcatraz Festival in Belgium to do a 35th anniversary of Forbidden Evil, and they literally asked within this email, this is one email, they literally asked, and could you get another singer, because I know Russ isn't doing very well health-wise, and what about Chris Contos playing drums because of his legacy out here with Machine Head and Burn My Eyes? And I go, and I was sitting in the safe spot. I just kind of pushed my chair back. I said, well, all right, universe. I can't keep saying no to this thing if it all makes sense.
Yeah.
So I didn't immediately go to Chris. I actually talked to Chris, and I said, dude, I don't know if I'm going to do this or not, but I'm going to offer you a chance here to, throw your hat in the ring and see if you want to try out or whatever. And then I was talking to other drummers, and, actually, I should back up. The first thing I did after that was call Matt Camacho, my bass player. And I said, Matt, because he was my guy since like 1986. I said, Matt, here's what's going on. What do you think? He said, I've been waiting for this, So he was the yes. Then I called Norman. I said, would you be interested if we did this? And he was a yes. Then I called Steve Smythe, and he was a yes. Then I called Chris and told him that this had been offered. And we both kind of agreed that maybe it wasn't a great idea because we're such good friends and we already played in the Boneless Ones. Like, do we really want to push it?
Right.
And before I went all the way back around to everybody I'd talked to, because all these guys are from out of town, they're all A-list drummers. Everybody wanted to do it, but nobody lived here. And the reason why Mark Hernandez wasn't going to do it is because he had quit the band on tour in 2012 or 2011, actually. He left us in a really bad predicament, so he wasn't going to be in a new incantation of Forbidden because his life was just set up differently. So, it wasn't the thing. But I was playing with him in Dress the Dead because there wasn't nearly as much heavy burdens of having to do big things all the time. So it was just different. So anyway, so I needed to figure this out. And I gave Chris one more call. I said, look, dude, I'm going to pull the trigger on one of these guys, or you're just going to like bite the bullet and we're just going to do this, because you're going to be pretty upset if we're out there playing great festivals and doing a number of wonderful things and I'm making a record and you could have had this gig. And he's like, you're right. And then we just agreed right then. So that was the lineup right there.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I often ask, like, bass players or drummers about their relationships with each other, but I don't know that I've ever asked, when you got two guitarists in the band, you mentioned Steve Smythe, he's been in since 2009. How do you guys compare or contrast each other when you're playing?
Well, in Forbidden, he's always, starting with Rob Flynn, because we started this band together. I think he was 17, I was 15. And he was like my mentor as a guitar player, because he's a couple years older. I'd really only been playing for like a year when we got Forbidden Evil together. So I always felt like there needed to be a guy who was more, in those days at least, more of a lead player, and I was a writer. And he was the leader until he quit and joined Violence. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I was thrust into that leadership role at the age of, 16 at that time. And it was like, oh my God, now I've got to come up with all this stuff. So getting another guitar player, Glenn Alvarez, who we ended up going with, I went to high school with that guy, and he was an unbelievable shredder, but he wasn't really a thrash dude. So he kind of got groomed into being thrash-ish up into Forbidden Evil, but it was a cool complementing style with me. It was, he had more of that Van Halen Yngwie thing going, right, and I was more just like adrenaline and songwriting. And so that didn't work out long. So then Tim Calvert came in, and Tim was the most accomplished up to that point, like, that I'd ever played with. He was definitely not a thrash guy as well, but he was an orchestrator, and he could help me finish these great ideas. And we wrote Twisted into Form like very quickly together. It happened very fast. And, I think Steve Smythe is in line more with Tim Calvert in that really good vocabulary for understanding all the music and the theory and knowing what moods are pulled out of certain chord structures and progressions and modes and things that I don't think about. I'm like, just do that. Yeah. It's never a thing for me. So I would say that Steve is like probably the most musically literate person I've ever played with, because even Tim didn't know everything about music. He was an incredible musician. Steve's both. He knows a lot about music, and he's an incredible musician, and he's a great partner for me to see the vision through.
Oh, so cool. Nice. Well, Forbidden has been no stranger to going on hiatus for a large period of time. From 97 to 2007, and then again from 2007 to 2012, and then now in the present day. Obviously we know that there's a big difference between, Forbidden with lead singers now. But as far as the evolution of the band's writing and sound and recording, can you talk a little bit more about where the band is at as far as sonically the sound opposed to when the band first started?
Well, these are great questions. I'm actually like really blown away by making me think about this stuff. Okay, so I will say this. When as I said earlier, I was very young when we first started, and it was all very reactionary to me. I didn't know much. I just did, and I had an overabundance of confidence and cockiness, which could kind of, bully my way through what I didn't understand, right? Yeah. So, a lot had changed in all those years. I really didn't start personally growing as a human being much until, somewhere after Twisted into Form and, when we broke up at the end after the Green record. There was like a lot of, and even then I was just thrown from high school into touring. So there's like a little lapse there. But I think that one thing I've never been afraid to do as a guitar player is follow my gut and take chances. And, for me, back in when we were writing Distortion and Green, I just saw what was going on with all these other bands, either one way really trying to fit in, or another way desperately trying to hold on to what they had and hoping that it would work out for them because they were afraid to do anything else. I didn't do either of those things. I just said, fuck it. I put my middle fingers up and I just wrote what I liked. And I fell in love with bands. Well, I did like a lot of Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and stuff like that. Wasn't much a Nirvana guy. I didn't like Pearl Jam. But, I liked the dark, heavy rock that was happening at that time. That didn't bother me. But what really moved me was Radiohead with the Bends. When the Bends came out, I was like, well, there's a band that can explode and also play with your emotions. And I said, like that was kind of awakening to me that I can do whatever I want. There's no rules. So from that point, 95 or so, I really started taking that approach. And I took that for the rest of my life and moving forward, and I still do. So here we are in 2023. When those first two records were written, they were written in E. Everything was tuned, what they call A440 or whatever. And everything, we wrote these heavy riffs not knowing or thinking about always tuning down and making it, darker. So those records, like the Exodus records, like Bonded by Blood, Forbidden Evil, the first three Metallica records, all that stuff, there was no deviation in tuning, really. So we bring that back on what we're doing right now. Forbidden for years tuned a half step down because we thought it would be better for us, and then we wrote a lot of that stuff lower tune, distortion, green, that stuff started getting lower. And on Omega Wave, like I think we were either in E flat or drop C sharp. These are all lower tunings for people that don't know. But this time I'm like, why don't we just go back and do what we originally did and make that stuff bounce like it did? So I think that right now I'm trying to write the majority of this material in E, the new stuff that I'm writing. And what we're playing now, the old set, the old songs that were off the first two albums, we're playing in that tuning. And then if we play anything older or that's, not off the first two albums, we're going to go accordingly as they were actually recorded. So it's going to be different. It's going to be a little bit of everything now.
So cool.
Nice. Well, yeah, I think I read you guys got coming up in 2024, the Hell's Heroes Festival in Houston, Texas. Can you talk about the band's anticipation of playing at an American festival, and do you know how they compare to festivals over in Europe?
So, yeah, what I do know about Hell's Heroes from the people that played it, and I know a lot of people that played it and a lot of people that like it, it has a very high marks in the way they take care of the artists and set the festival up itself. It's like a really good vibe. So when they approached us, it was like, of course we'll do it. Hey, one of the hardest people in the world to make happy is Tom Gabriel Fisher or Tom G. Warrior from Celtic Frost. And he played it last year, and I read a multiple paragraph diatribe about how good this festival was and how they do it right, like in Europe. And I said, that's enough for me. He's hard to satisfy. But it must have been great. So, yeah, we said yes to that.
Fantastic. Well, the big question is to all the metal fans out there, and especially Forbidden fans, what can we expect from this new lineup? Are we going to look at an LP, an EP down the line somewhere, or what are we going to see from you guys in 2024?
It's really hard to know where all this is going to land exactly, but I have a plan as to where I could tell you where I'd like it to land, and then we'll adjust accordingly. It's like, you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. So, ultimately, I see us doing this. We have these 2 sold-out shows in a couple weeks with Death Angel. They sold out 3 months ago.
Nice.
That's because we're playing together. That's because, it's a big deal it's like peanut butter and jelly in the Bay Area. Death Angel and Forbidden just fit as good as any 2 combinations, if not better than any 2 combinations of because we've toured together, we're friends. And so we have that. And then the first two or so months into January and February, going to work really hard on buttoning up some of these new songs. I want to record and demo some of them. And then I want to do these other festivals we have that are going to be starting in March. I think Hell's Heroes is the first one. And then, we have South America. We have Northwest Terror Fest. We have Delaware Death Fest or whatever. No, Maryland Death Fest. There's all these things. We have festivals in Europe, Bloodstock, Dynamo. But we're going to kind of keep it to what I just said. And maybe 1 or 2 shows other than that, and just keep writing. And I hope to be in the studio and have a record recorded by this time next year.
Ah, very good.
That's what I'm hoping for. So I want to hit the studio sometime in September, October, November, knock that thing out, and then have something for release on the, end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter of 2025. Because I think that's realistic. If we work really hard, it's realistic. People want us to tour everywhere. They say, when are you coming to my town? And I say, when there's a record out. Because otherwise, and it's really hard. I don't think touring's like it used to be. I think it's really difficult to stay out for long, extended periods of time and make it so you can even survive at it. So, we all have, everyone's got houses and families and all that jazz. So, we just got to be selective. I think the new business model is that you can't say yes to everything, and you have to be really smart about what you pull the trigger on committing to.
Oh, very good.
Well, I know a lot of artists have, one or two guitars for different tunings and stuff like that. But for you with Forbidden, do you have that one trusty guitar, or do you have an arsenal of guitars, or how's it work for you?
I'm in a room with like guitar cases practically in the ceiling here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, but when you have different tunings, you have to have a backup for each one, right? So I anticipate like mostly just traveling with two sets of guitars, and and then if we add stuff off with distortion or whatnot, then you got to think about different stuff. But I think we can get away with like 4 guitars if we're playing stuff off Omega Wave and any other new stuff as well. That's what I'm hoping I can keep it at for the most part, is traveling with 4 guitars.
Nice.
Oh, very good. So I want to take this back to 1990, the Twisted Into Form album. Always kind of regard that album as being like the band's Sgt. Pepper's. Just kind of, it's just what it kind of feels to me. It being the second album, it still holds critical acclaim. It still holds up today. It has a cult following like nobody else's business. But when you guys were in the studio writing and recording this album, did you have an idea that you guys were onto something special that was going to hold the test of time with this album?
Well, that goes back to when I first started working with Tim Calvert, because I had started writing some stuff, and we were actually secretly working with Tim a little bit on the side before we went to Europe on tour. It was the last one with Glenn. So I had actually whipped out a few riffs and showed it to him, and then he started playing off it. And then we showed it to Glenn, and we started playing a couple of them with Glenn in Europe. But we came back, we let Glenn go, and then I got to work with Tim really closely. And his dramatic, sense of his sense of drama, as I said, he wasn't a thrash guy, so we played off each other. And his sense of drama mixed with actually realizing what I was hearing, and my mind opening up just playing with this guy who was so well versed, it made for an absolutely atomic chemistry between us. And we bring these riffs, and then Bo Staff, who was really involved in like every time we'd write something, he'd want to sit there and help us arrange it, right? Paul couldn't pick up a guitar, but he could definitely arrange. I don't know what he gets to do in Slayer, but I know what he could do with Forbidden. And he was very helpful in that way. So we all the 3 of us worked on the record, and we thought it was really good going in. We thought, yeah, but the vocals weren't all done. There's only certain vocals. And that was the first album where I really took over writing the lyrics. And a lot of those lyrics were written in advance, like One Foot in Hell and stuff like that. That's, that stuff was written in advance, Twisted Into Form. But some of that stuff, like Infinite, I wrote the entire end of Infinite because we had some really sappy, bad ending. It wasn't even a good melody. The lyrics were just ridiculous. I just looked at everybody. I was like, leave me in the room for an hour and don't bother me. And then I came out with that whole Analyze, Cut to Shreds thing. And, like things like that make that album, put it over the top, because you don't really go in with a plan on something. You come out like, oh, there you go. Like that actually is better than what was there before. So there was no like complete grand design. No, I don't think shit, man. I was 19 when we were 20. I was 20 when we went in the studio to record that record. So I really didn't know too much of what was happening. I just knew that we were enjoying what we were doing, and we thought we were going to be one of the bigger thrash bands. If music hadn't have changed so much, who knows? But like we were in there right behind, or right neck and neck with Death Angel at that time. And they were supposed to be on, if you remember, they were supposed to be on Clash of the Titans before Alice in Chains got it, but they got in that accident after they jumped off a leg with us on tour. So this is how close we all were to And I'm not one of those guys. Let's just make this very clear. I am not one of those guys who lives in the past and says, well, with this, it's never been that way. If you know anything about me at all, you know that I don't operate like that, and I always move forward. And I manage to stay relevant by not tripping on things of the past or, misturns or whatever. I made mistakes, but I just figured out, I was supposed to make that mistake.
Very good.
Well, back in that time, in that day, was it a pretty close-knit group with the other bands, in the Bay Area, or were you guys all fighting for your own spot?
Yes and yes. We were close-knit, but we were all very competitive. Every band had their rival.
Yeah.
Like with us, it was Violence. With Death Angel, it was Violence. With Exodus, it was Testament. Like everyone had their thing. So, and no one disliked each other, but it's just like, you're fighting for your little piece of the rock.
Right.
But I will say that us and Death Angel got along so well. Like I was saying, it goes back to these shows we're doing in a couple weeks. Like we were the tightest of the tight, They rehearsed they needed a place to rehearse. They moved into our studio to finish writing Frolic in the Park back in '87. Like we always shared stages. We always, shared meals. We had parties together. We lived on a tour bus together. We lived together for 6 months touring for Twisted and Informed in Act 3. So, that's when we figured out how good Twisted and Informed was in other people's eyes. I actually remember not being that secure with how the album sounded when it was done.
Yeah.
And then some advances going around to some people and friends of mine were like, I just heard the album at a party and it's, oh my God, it's like, it's the next level. I'm like, really? I didn't know. I wasn't really sure, that I had that doubt. And I just kind of watched other people relate to it lyrically, and musically. And I was like, okay, maybe we're onto something. I didn't really know.
Well, we're going to switch gears on you here to the Boneless Ones. We had Chris on the podcast about a little over a year ago, and he was expressed the excitement of the Boneless Ones getting back together and having your services on guitar. Can you talk a little bit more about the happenings of the Boneless Ones? Is there anything in the works as far as new material or new shows? What's going on with the band?
Well, we started writing a couple of new tunes that we haven't played live yet. And, it's, to me, like, going in, I mean, the Boneless Ones to Troy and Max, it's their legacy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And, Chris has got a lot of legacies. I've got a lot of legacies. Ultimately, mine really resides with Forbidden. But when he asked me if I'd be interested in sitting in, I mean, I loved the band because I saw the Boneless Ones. If you ever watched that video of them playing that outdoor show in Berkeley, I was there. I remember tripping on just how great the guitar player was. I was like, this guy's fucking way too good for a punk rock band is what I was thinking. Because, I was pretty young. I was probably 16 or 17 at the time. But I liked them a lot. And he's like, hey, our guitar player isn't working out. Would you be interested in just talking to the guys? And it was during COVID. I'm like, yeah, why not? I love, people don't know how much punk rock I listen to. If you looked at my phone and my Apple Music, you'd know. It's like I grew up on all that stuff too, and it's like in my back pocket. So I was like, yeah, I'll talk to him, and I ended up liking the guys. So that's how we kind of started it as a COVID jam. Let's make a record. Let's see where this goes, and then eventually we'll play shows once the world unlocks. And that's what we did. We wrote a bunch of songs. We recorded a lot of stuff in Chris's he had a bedroom that he used. We just did it all on headphones. We were all just wearing phones and playing in the room, and it started to sound pretty good. I'm like, this is had a good chemistry going. So that's how that happened. And then all of a sudden, our first show offering is a benefit for Tom Hunting in Sacramento, and that went over great. And then we realized, okay, this band's good live. So it's a really fun avenue for me, and I hope to keep doing it for years. I mean, it's never going to be my number one priority, but it is my priority when it's my priority, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when I can put it in front of me and I go, fuck yeah, this is hella fun. Don't ever think too hard. I have a slogan I came up with the guys. I came up with it one day at practice. So, well, keep the fun, boys. Just keep it fun, and then this isn't a drag. So we got to remind ourselves of that.
Yeah, very good. Jeff, you got the next one?
Well, one of the things I like when we do this is kind of discovering new bands I'm not aware of. So for you, Manmade God and SpiralArms were bands that you did during your hiatus from Forbidden. Can you talk a little bit about those bands?
Sure. First, Manmade God. So when Forbidden ended, it was kind of abrupt, and it was like, I just had enough. I had enough with the industry at that point. I was like, I realized that there was never going to be an opening for Forbidden, at least within X amount of years. And I was like, I've got more music. As I told you, I really loved Radiohead and other stuff, and more organic stuff like Black Crowes and Bad Company and all this. But when we started Man-Made God, I just wanted to do that by myself and find new people. But Steve and Matt from Forbidden basically said, no, you're not going anywhere without us. We're doing this with you. So we did, and it was cool. When we started, that's what it was. Very experimental. They had a different singer. But then, once Matt left, we found another singer who was phenomenal. Yeah. Just a great lyricist, great voice, very organic. It's like somewhere between Paul Rodgers and Chris Cornell, and just, or Lou Gramm, something like that. So all of a sudden, music started to come out that was just universal and powerful rock. And it was like, I unlocked my rock box, I was like, oh, this is easy for me. I was the metal guy, but, it's like, it was magical, and things happened very quickly. And we got a record deal with Rick Rubin. That got like one of the last really big record deals, spent exorbitant amounts of money living in LA, doing stupid things. And that's kind of put us behind. Like, by the time the album came out, it was like 2 years after we started making it. Yeah. And, then we went on tour, and they tried to put us in every new metal band on earth, Saliva, Taproot, Trapped, like all this stuff. I'm like, we don't fit with any of these guys. Like, there's no one for us to tour with. Yeah. And then Audioslave came. Actually, Audioslave came out. Here's a funny story. So our demos, Rick Rubin heard our demos and immediately wanted to sign us, and we did a showcase for him. But he played our demos to Tom Morello. Yeah. And Tom Morello and him decided, fuck, this is killer. We should talk to Chris Cornell about starting a new band together off of our demos. And then they went in and wrote and recorded a record in like 1/8 of the amount of time it took for us to record our record and get it done. I mean, and their album was out. Our album was done, but their album had come out a year before our album was released, because there was a massive sea change in the industry between Columbia and Island. There's all this shit. So we got kind of lost in the shuffle. And then when we came out, people was like, wow, you guys are cool. You kind of sound like Audioslave. And I go, no, that's, so we had to deal with that. And I think that's the kind of stuff that kind of broke our singer in half. Yeah. And that's why that band, he just never understood why we weren't a overnight success. And I said, that doesn't happen. Right. What you think is overnight is a lot of work, and you just never understood it. So that was when I met up with Tim Narducci, who I knew for years because he was in a band called Tyrannicide in the Bay Area. And then he had Systematic going, which was on Lars Ulrich's label. And they were dealing with something similar. He had a similar situation with a guitar player in his band, and just, a little bit of didn't see eye to eye, prima donna, like we kind of similar. So we both said, let's join forces and try not to be on a record label for a while and try not to be put into the meat grinder and just write music. And that's how SpiralArms kind of got started out of the ashes of both Man-Made God and Forbidden. And he actually really wanted to join Man-Made God because he loved our album so much. And I said, well, you don't want that debt, do you? So we decided to change it to SpiralArms.
Ah, very good.
Well, you guys had four albums between those two bands, and I think you called it a day in around 2016. But do you guys have anything in the works?
Well, we did a record that has not come out, and Eric Kretz from Stuntable Pilots produced it. Nice. He was actually in the band. There was a point SpiralArms started with, and this is funny. This is like Spinal Tap. Yeah. Started with Steve Jacobs on drums. That was with me and Man-Made God. Then Paul Bostaff came in to sit in for him when Steve had some shoulder surgery. Then Steve came back, re-injured his shoulder. Then Eric Kretz came in, and he was with us for quite a few months, and we recorded some stuff together. And then STP started to get back together, so he bailed. That's when Chris Contos came in.
Yeah.
So Contos was with us for a few years. And then when I did the Forbidden thing, it kind of imploded for a bit, and we thought it was going to be completely gone, but he was gone. Then a guy named Ron Radine came in and played drums, who was fantastic, but not a household name. And then Ron ended up getting fired from the band, and Andy Gallion came in, who was a Death Angel. And that was where we left it. So I don't even remember what your question was, but we had a lot of drummers.
Well, I think you had mentioned you got a one-off show coming up in April, so I was just trying to...
Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah. No, it's coming up in January.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
It's in January. It's coming right up. I got to dust off my old... We're playing stuff off of the first, or the Freedom album and Highest Society album, and a couple of the songs that have not been released yet.
Nice.
But it's, Tim's gone through a lot. He's had loss. His dad died. His brother died. We kind of came back together at his brother's memorial, and just, because he's an incredibly talented guy. Tim Narducci is a great talent on his own. He knows I write songs on my own. He writes songs on his own. We joined forces and just reconnected. And I think that the time is right for us to do something to kind of cap it off. I don't see so much a future for SpiralArms, not in my near future, because I have other things. I definitely have the Forbidden thing and the Boneless Ones thing, and Dress the Dead was my main thing for a lot of years too. And I don't know where that's even going to land, because my timing with Forbidden is going to be so. I got to just acknowledge that it's going to take up most of my time.
Oh yeah.
There's no way around it, and if I'm denying that, I'm literally ignoring my legacy.
So you've always been known as being the thrash metal guitarist. Can you just talk a little bit about moving around within the subgenres of rock and roll into punk rock and the other ventures you've been on? And has it, I guess, maybe sharpened your chops as a guitar player, or do you still feel like you're that metal guitar player at heart? Or I guess maybe where are you at these days with your style?
Wherever I feel like going. It always takes a little bit of, and this is, I'm not the greatest guitar player. I am not. But what I'm, how does Chris put it? He says I'm very lyrical in my playing, and meaning that if I play something in a song, it's meant to be there, and I'm not a noodler. My solos are more singing. Like, if I like to sing my solo out before I actually play it, I haven't put in my mind as kind of ghost notes. It's just a different approach, because I'm not as I said earlier, I'm not a trained musician, so I work in a different way than a lot of people, and it's very unorthodox. So, to be honest with you, I'm one of the very few out of all of my peers and all these guys that I really, really look up to that can move seamlessly through there without trying. I just do.
Nice.
It's not a try thing with me. I can walk in there and I have a different approach to when I play rock and roll stuff. And all my rock is heavy. Everything I do is heavy. It's got hair on it. So it sounds like me playing that style. It sounds like me playing thrash metal. I think you could, if you know my style at all, you recognize that that's Craig playing that, because that's what he would do. So not everyone's secure enough to pull that off. A lot of people tried to do different things and got cold feet. They either gave up and became jaded, or they moved back to doing what they thought people would like them to do. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to Forbidden, I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm literally doing it for me at this time of my life, because I think I have something to say. The world situation, climate, politically, everything like that. Oh man, it's a perfect time for Forbidden. The duality of man, the internal struggle, the people, taking sides on, propaganda. It's just perfect. I mean, I could not pick a better time to write a Forbidden record. It's gonna come like really easy to me at this point, because I feel like, you never know when it's the last fucking dance. This just really feels like the last dance to me. I just don't know. It's felt like that a few times in my life. I just feel like we're getting there, so I better do this now.
Yeah, very good. Well, we're running out of our allotted time this evening. I got one last question for you, and then we'll leave you alone. Deal?
Yeah,
All
sure.
right.
Yeah.
So the mystery of rock and roll, the dawning of the internet and the social media, there's no mystery anymore. There's no Kiss. There's no Led Zeppelin. There's no Queen. There's no mystery anymore with all the social medias. For you, the fan and the artist, what do you prefer? Do you prefer that mystery and mystique that metal had back in the 70s, 80s? Or do you like this new age of accessibility? Because if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't be doing this tonight with you.
Yes. I think I like the older way better, but this is important. This is like my approach to music and guitar playing and everything. You kind of just got to roll with it, man.
Yeah.
Like you can't get too stuck in cement shoes with yesteryear. It's not healthy. It doesn't, propel you to grow. You're just kind of stuck wondering why, it didn't work out this way or that way. So I think with the way the world has turned into this different approach, I think there are some pluses to it. Maybe there's more minuses, fiscally for sure, because the mystery's gone and because of us, everyone can just basically burn and rip whatever they want to. It's really hard for a band to, fully commit to making art because it just doesn't pay. So there's your biggest negative. Yeah. And then of course, it's really hard to hide your mystique. You get a guy like Tobias from Ghost. When he first came out, he did a nice job of hiding his mystique, but even he couldn't resist, like, everyone needs to know who I am,
Right.
So, I really respect that guy as an artist. I think he's great. I don't love all the last albums as much, but I think he's a incredible talent, and he started to do it. He started his career maintaining his mystique, and then said, "Nah, you need to see me now." So it's just, you can do it for a while, but you really got to hide. I mean,
yeah, you do,
and it doesn't. The TikTok generation doesn't respond to hiders. Like they don't, if you're hidden, they don't care.
Yeah, very well said. Like I said, we're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off that you would like to plug or promote?
Not presently. There are some songs I do want to say that Dress the Dead released the EP right before this Forbidden thing happened. It all kind of came at one time. One thing came and then the other thing came. But you should definitely check out Dress the Dead too, because we have the most incredible female vocalist in Kayla Dixon, I think, on earth. I think she's just absolutely phenom. And that's a great EP that you can find on iTunes, Spotify, whatever. It's on everything.
Oh, very good. Well, this is how things are going to work out. We're about 3 weeks behind on our episodes. Once Jeff gets everything cleaned up, we'll get this link sent to you right away, and then please share it wherever you possibly can.
Yeah, just whatever you guys say it's okay to send or share it, I definitely will.
We'll definitely do that. Craig, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for asking me good questions that actually made me think.
Very good.
Yeah, we had a good time.
I'll be back in touch with you. I'll have the link for you. Sound good?
All right, guys. Sounds great, man.
Thanks, Craig.
Have a good night.
Night.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye.
bites their tongue and pays their bills instead. Hide in the spotlights, fight the grip of death. You can have the air you need, but you best not take one breath. Hey. Roll the dice. Take your chances. Everybody knows the game is fixed, there is no prize. Everybody pulls the plug and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. Hey. Roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.